Like press alt A, press alt A.
Well, welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you, I think. Did you tell everybody where I was coming in hot from?
Early on. So we have another, I don't know, 10 or 15 people who didn't hear. So go ahead, tell us.
Awesome. Yeah. So, hi, guys. We've had an adventurous morning. We have a 16-year-old in our house who turned 16 2 weeks ago, actually on original tax day, right? Not 2020 tax day. And we just went for her driver's test. Things here in Houston are starting to open back up, but the original testing center we were going to did not open. And so we had to shimmy and joggle, and we made it. We found a new place and she passed. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome.
super exciting.
Well, thank you for coming in hot and being here.
I am. So that's pretty much the only way you're ever going to get me, though, Ashley. So
that's true. That's true. You got,
really
you got
just
a house
my
full.
public service announcement.
All right. So would you start? I mean, everybody knows the name. You know, you are definitely a celebrity family at this point. I know it's
word.
crazy. It's just weird, but you are. So
well, I had never even heard that word until a couple months ago, and I think that it just makes me laugh every time I hear it. It's a funny word.
Okay. And I am blessed to know kind of the longer version of the story. Like you guys just didn't, you know, land in 2,700 units. There's actually a pre-story. So would you start there a little bit?
Yeah. How much pre-story do you want? How many hours do we have? No,
I'll ask you a couple leading questions and then you can just take off. What year did you start in real estate?
So I actually got my license the very tail end of 2008. I was also very much like the time right now, postponed from taking my test because I was scheduled to take it. And then this funny man named Hurricane Ike popped into our area and really wiped us out. It was a very wind heavy storm, unlike Harvey, which everybody really knows us for Harvey. Ike didn't have nearly the water with it, but it had so much wind and took down trees and power lines and electricity for weeks for some people, including our testing center. So I couldn't have driven there and gotten through the streets if I had to, but it pushed things back. And, you know, I've always since then considered that to be one of the biggest blessings of my career in real estate and really of our business as a whole, because it was just like right now. And it really drove me and us then collectively to just learn good habits from the beginning.
Okay. So in that first year, we were also obviously in a major recession.
Oh, well, there was that. Yeah.
You know, that blip. What were your first couple years like? Because Lance was still in Fortune 500 America, right?
He was. So my background is in teaching. I was an elementary school teacher for almost 10 years. Ironically, my last year of teaching, I was a technology coach for our school district. Thankfully, although it was the year right before Facebook came out. So imagine how, like, on maternity leave, the world changed for me. But yeah, Lance was in corporate America, and I actually did some work for one of the companies he was working for. And the very last big thing I did, ironically, nothing, you know, I'm a believer that everything happens for a reason. I don't know what everybody's beliefs here are and what your beliefs are for why things happen, but I believe that they do. And by no mistake, one of my biggest roles with one of his companies, I was brought on as contract to recruit a C-level executive for one of the companies he was working with. Come full circle, here I am teaching leverage, right? And it's my favorite thing to do. But anyhow, yeah, he was a C-level exec and was gone like 50% of the time. And so I needed to find something to do that I could do with a 2 and 4-year-old at home. And come to find out, I love lead gen. And I thought I wanted to.
What?
I know. I'm one of the crazy people. I actually love lead gen. And I learned that through that little recruiting, you know, contract job I did for his company. And I really thought I wanted to be a recruiter. And come to find out, they want you to work like their hours and 12 plus hours a day on their schedule. And with him gone 50% of the time traveling for work and a 2 and 4-year-old at home, that didn't really work. And I've grown up in a family where my dad has done very just like piddly kind of investments in real estate, but I was always kind of like on his shirt tail helping to rehab properties and strip wallpaper, and did for myself in my first home. So, it was like, hey, this makes a lot of sense when I learned that I could just keep making phone calls and that was my real job. Like, hot diggity, I'm in. And so that's kind of what went on. But then about a year into my real estate career, I was asked to take on an interim team leader role. Um, that was interesting, and I think kind of crazy on the part of the people that thought that was a good idea. I still didn't even know enough to know when I was being dangerous, right?
Were you setting production records that first year?
Well, I was rookie of the year the first year for my market center. I don't think I set the world on fire by any means, but I capped, and I sold 21 units my first year by myself. And with toddlers at home and a husband part-time, I felt like I was doing okay. Yeah. And a recession, right? And like I said, I truly, like, in hindsight, I didn't know what I didn't know. And there is true bliss to that. But to look back on what was happening with the agents around me, and we can kind of talk about that a little bit today if you want to. I do believe that was one of the biggest blessings of our whole business up even to today, and our mindset around things. Because people just were taking things for granted, and all of a sudden their world changed, and they didn't flex, they didn't adapt, and they didn't lean into it. And a lot of them to this day aren't in business or barely have a business still 10 years later. So anyhow, Lance, at the end of 2010, fast forward, I did the team leader gig for about 5 months, and it was just an interim position, thankfully, because I learned in those 5 months that wasn't what I wanted as a full-time role at the time. And I really missed my production role. I loved selling real estate. I loved, finding clients. I thought it was kind of fun to sell houses to people that had never seen the house and who I didn't meet. Little did I know how much that would be a great thing to know come fast forward a few years later, right?
Sure.
Out of those 21, 3 of the houses were houses I've never seen to this day, and and buyers I've never met. And are still in our data bank. And
I didn't know about that part. So how did you do that in 2008-9?
Right. So they were investors, number one.
Okay.
And so a little bit more willing to take a chance, right? They were properties, like I said, I had so much wind to it. One was near Galveston. Galveston just about got wiped out. And the property had so much water that he climbed up on the next door neighbor's porch to climb across a couple boards just to look in the windows, because there was so much water, he couldn't get access to the house he bought. So, how do you do that? You work with people who think outside the box, I guess. Yeah. Right. And you are willing to think outside the box. And we made sure that, all the correct paperwork was done, and I met their need, right? Like, whatever that was, they were looking for great investments and great, money makers potentially. And one of those guys came back to us not too long ago and is doing more investments. So that's pretty fun. Yeah. So at the end of 2010 then is kind of where we started moving towards our TLG team. I was coming out of that interim team leader role, knew I wanted to go back into sales. And right around the same time as all of that, Lance's company, he was in wind energy at the time with an oil and gas company. And because of the recession and kind of what's happening, honestly, a lot right now with oil and gas prices, if oil and gas aren't the right price, wind energy doesn't make a lot of sense. And their company, it was a 2-year-old division. And, as any of you know, the first 2 years of your business aren't the most profitable, and it takes time to ramp up. And they were just fighting against a very tall wall the whole way through, and finally decided it just wasn't going to work. And 400 some guys lost their job in one day. They closed the whole division, and Lance was one of them. And so we just had some really big decisions to make for our family at that point, right? I loved what I was doing in real estate. Up until that point, we had, like I said, we had 2 little girls now, and we had lived in 7 houses in 5 years. And the house that we had just moved into, about 2 years prior, I unpacked the wine glasses. And in our house, that meant I'm not moving
You're
for a
staying.
long, long time, right? Like I had gotten to the point where I had wrapped them all in like the packing paper from Hobby Lobby or from a craft store, you know, that they wrap the breakables in, and labeled all the different kind of wine glasses with different colored stickers so that if we had somebody come for dinner, I knew which box to go and which glasses to unwrap, because I was not going to keep unwrapping and rewrapping and repacking a lot of our stuff.
Yeah.
And I had unpacked everything. So that was kind of the conversation. And he had job offers literally all over the country. And I was pretty firm that I felt like our kids had now started school and I really wanted us to be able to root somewhere. We were so upside down financially because that was the third position that he had lost. Well, so he was originally in furniture, and furniture is a very, even though through this they somehow kept it essential in Houston. I don't know where about all the places you guys live, mostly because the biggest furniture guy here is just a huge giver, I think the biggest reason. But you know, when money is running low, furniture isn't usually the first thing people think to go out and buy. It's a larger ticketed item, it's a luxury item. And his company, for a couple years, he was on the East and West Coast. You know, they were feeling the shake before I think anybody in the middle states really even felt it, which is usually the case economically, is what happens. And so it had been a little shaky for quite a few years. And as a C-level executive, oftentimes those are the first guys to get cut. And so we had a lot of ups and downs, and started TLG with a very healthy $250,000 worth of debt, in big part
2010, 10-ish?
that was, yeah, there. Well, January of 2011, we started the team.
With 250 grand in debt.
And then some. That was our unsecured debt.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So, you know, the story that you started this with of, oh, so, you know, jump right in and get, not so much.
That's the important part.
Yeah. Well, it is the important part, you know, because that's what got us to where we are. And Lance and I are both very much dig in, do whatever it takes kind of people. Like we just, there aren't two directions. Like there is go, and that's it. There's go, right? And whatever we've made a commitment to, like, we're just going to go. And thankfully, both of us think that way. Not to say that it wasn't scary, right? Like I definitely had my doubts about some things, but we just felt like putting
was your vision then over 2,000 units, over 3,000 units? Could you see that far?
So the first week that we sat down together as a team, in January of 2011, we actually sat down at our dining room table, same one we still have with scratches all over it and now a chair broken. And we wrote our mission, vision, and values. And I really, honestly, I kind of fought him on it because I didn't see the value in taking time to do that at that moment. I kept saying, we got to get on the phones. I'm just getting back into production. We've got to get on the phones. I've got to lead generate. Don't you know, my team leader told me, by the way, you might want to write this down because it's one of the things that I believe has defined me and us, is my team leader told me, Lance, that any day I don't lead generate is a day I don't get paid. I don't care about closing day. She said, that's not the day you get paid. You only get paid the days you lead generate. I have to lead generate before we sit down and talk about whatever you want to talk about. Well, I don't say this very often. He was right. And so we did sit down at the table. He convinced me there was value in doing this. And I'll tell you what, I'm so glad he did, because for any of you guys that haven't already done that for your business, that really, it was like, if we wouldn't have done that, it would have been like an airplane pilot hopping in an airplane to fly somewhere and having zero idea where he was going, right? We knew that we wanted to conquer the world. We knew that we were capable of it. And quite honestly, we were at the worst probably point of our entire marriage to date. We were at the magical year 7. What a great time to start a business together, right?
If the marriage is going to fail, that's kind of the time frame.
Definitely, it was really, really well on its way there. I had even found a divorce attorney, quite honestly. And Lance and I are still married because we were so broke that I couldn't afford to even go have a meeting with the attorney. So here we are. And thankfully, we were that broke, right? Because now things are so good. But well, most days, day by day, it's a choice, right? And yeah, I mean, we were like, there just couldn't be more that was bad. But it was so important for us to sit down, number one, as a partnership and get on the same page, right? But number two, to know exactly where we were going and then make a plan for how we were going to get there. And that's really what we did. You know, he has a little saying. He says, "Plan your work your plan." That's what we
How old
did.
were the kids then, Karina?
They were 3 and 6. 3 and 6.
I just wanted to, the whole picture.
Oof. Yes.
Struggling marriage, young kids,
Oh yeah.
downsized husband who probably isn't feeling all that self-confident. I mean, that's a lot going on.
We had a lot going on. And yet, to answer your question and the long way to get there, when we sat down at that dining room table and mapped things out, what we did know was and this was more Lance than me. I'm very much more how are we going to take care of people minded. I'm the people person. I'm the communicator. I'm the teacher, right? At heart, competition is his number one strength. And so all he knew was, I want to win. I want to be number one. And I was like, okay, well, what's that going to take? Well, I've already looked. And sure enough, he had looked at like the last 3 years of data in Houston. And at that point, nobody had ever done 250 million. In fact, if our goal was to be 250, we were about 25 million ahead of what anybody had ever done as a max in Houston, any market, even through all of the 3 to 2006 and 7. So we felt like 250 was a great goal, and we set that for our 2017 goal, and then just worked our numbers backwards, true MREA fashion. What was it going to take for us to get there each year? And what was cool is we set out the first year to do 8 million, and the next year to do 20, and the next year to do 60, and the first year we did just a little over 8, it was like 8.4. And then the next year we actually did 24, not 20. And the following year we did 84, not 60.
Wow.
And it's the domino thing, right? Like you think about the one thing book and the domino, that each domino can knock over one, at least double its size, right? And how fast that grows. And that's really what was happening, was a compounding effect. And it was very much a compounding effect of relationships, is really what it wasn't a compounding effect of transactions. It was the compounding of relationships. And I don't think, honestly, we even realized the connectedness and the power of the relationships that we've developed through this business until Harvey hit.
Yeah.
Honestly, that taught us so many lessons of the blessings that we have and how important. And I even see Laurie Steenis is commenting on here, and she actually is one of those relationships. She showed up here to Harvey, and I met her sitting on a curb, exhausted, and we had her stay in the house. And just the way people came out to support, but also how we were able to find others who had what somebody needed, and the I don't think influence is the right word, but just the connectedness to other people, right? Through those relationships we'd built over the years. Like it felt like we could have found something for somebody for just about any need. And that filled our hearts so much to be able to serve others that way.
Yeah.
It was really, just amazing how people came out to help each other.
So how many people on the team now?
We are at 84, I believe, today.
Okay. And what did you finish 2019 at, unit-wise?
2019, we finished at 2532, I believe is the official number. Depends if you're looking at leases, not leases.
Okay. And what was the goal for this year?
20, what was?
You caught it. Good. Well, what did you start the year with a goal as, and has it changed?
No. is the answer. And 2,700 closed units is the total goal. That includes our new construction goal. We have it broken out to listings, resale buyers, and then new construction closings.
Okay. And I love it. You said no, like kind of what a dumb
No.
question I would ask, right?
No.
You're not changing the goal.
No, there is no dumb question. I was an elementary school teacher. Come on now, Ashley.
Do your strategies for that goal have to change?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And
so let's go there.
So immediately, like even as, and I know everybody has experienced this in all of our different areas at different stages and kind of different schedules. But, in the beginning, there was so much ambiguity of what was coming. We just could kind of like see something was coming, right? Fortunately, just like, I'm sorry, I'm going to open a Coke here real quick while I'm talking. Fortunately, just kind of like what happened with the recession, it hit the East Coast and the West Coast before it hit the middle. So we're really, really blessed being in Texas and Houston that we have a little bit of a crystal ball, even though we don't really, but we get a little glimpse. So we had about a week to see what was kind of coming and study, and we have throughout studied what was happening on coasts. But we just knew something was coming. And so we kind of buckled down immediately. And we put into practice actually an activity that Tony DeCello had taught us. And I feel confident in saying we will continue doing this to different like masterminding, brainstorming topics for the rest of the year, because this is definitely, pivot. I think, that word makes me think about high school basketball class, which just, I didn't play high school basketball, so I don't know much about it, but I remember them telling me to pretend I had a dime under my toe and I just kept moving. And I feel like pivot for this year is an understatement, right? I think you need a dime under each toe because we're going to just kind of keep going all different directions throughout the year as is necessary, but not too much that we chase shiny squirrels and don't do things that work and stick with them, right? So there's a difference in holding our time and our money accountable. But
what was the process Tony told you?
Yep. So I was really proud of our exec team. Tony had taught us a while back to make a list of 20 things of whatever your topic is. And so our topic was, how do we continue doing real estate if everything has to be virtual, everything? And that's for our consumers, that's for the team, that's for obviously showings and getting into properties and everything. What needs to happen? And so each member of our exec team made a list of 20. And what Tony taught us was like to really go and sit in a very quiet place and have thinking time. And we don't take enough time for thinking time, number one. Yes. But number two, 1 through 10 are really easy to list usually. And even 11 through 15, sort of kind of easy, but not maybe as easy as 1 through 10. But when you get into like the 15 to 20 range, 16 to 20, those last 5 or 6 ideas are harder to come up with, right? And what it does is it just really forces you to start thinking creatively. That's really where the magic usually happens, and where you're holding yourself accountable at that point, right? To getting outside of what is just safe and natural, and maybe even things you've already sort of kind of started and haven't followed through on, ideas that would have worked no matter what was happening, right? But it pushes you to really just think outside the box and look for better solutions. And, Gary has taught us the whole way through all this, and always has, that, during these times, it's so important not for us to just look at our finances and cut things, but to get really creative. And it's one of the blessings, it's one of the gifts of the shift, right? Is where we really truly are put into a position where we're going to prioritize and get creative, where we were maybe kind of being a little lazy or taking things for granted. And man, the ideas that have come out of now a couple of different topics we've masterminded around, but we did that before it even hit here. We chose 3 things to really dig in and do full steam ahead. That were necessary, we felt, in our business.
So to clarify, you make the list of 20, but you're not implementing 20 things. You're making the list so you can
there's
get
8 of us on the exec team, and so we made a list of whatever 8 times 20 is.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot. Yep. So we had 160 items, right? Of really amazing items. Some were duplicates, but most of them, believe it or not, weren't. And
Wow.
so we sorted through those. And actually, I have a chart. If you want to hold on, I'll show you. I found after the fact, ugh, after we did the first one, I went digging because we've done it now multiple times. And it was like, oh, this is a hard way for us to just sit here and read this list and choose, like, how are we going to pick 3, right? Like, how do you do that out of 160? So I found this really cool chart. Are you guys able to see this?
Yeah, I'm drawing it out.
Okay, so down this side where my thumb is, and I'm going to keep hanging on or I'll drop it again, right here, it says impact or value. And the top box is high and the bottom box is less. Okay. And then across the bottom, I don't know if you can see that down there, it says effort to implement. I also saw some models that said feasibility, right? Or cost. You can look at just what it's going to take to implement. That comes in a variety of different ways, right?
Yep.
Even bandwidth, time. So then across the bottom, this box over here on my side says high, the other side says less. Okay, so what you end up having is, if anybody's ever heard of an Eisenhower matrix, right, where you can sort what you're prioritizing for all different things. This really is just a version of an Eisenhower matrix. And if you're not familiar with that, guys, you can just Google Eisenhower, like the president's name, Eisenhower matrix, and you'll find lots of sites to explain it and lots of versions. But this really helped to take a long list like that and sort out, like, okay, so what was going to have really high impact, but also be high effort, right? And so that's a maybe box. Okay. And then what's going to have high impact or high value, but be less to implement? Well, that's the yes box right away, right? You see how that works? Yeah. Then on the bottom row, the high, it's high effort and less impact. That became our no. And that's not a no forever. That might just be a no, not right now, because some of those things might not take as much time later on. Or maybe some of the ideas we came up with really didn't lend themselves to the list for virtual when we got to the logistics. Mm-hmm. But when we get back into the office, it could be a yes real quick, right? And then the other box is also a maybe, which is less of an impact, less effort, but also less impact, right? So kind of the meh stuff, take it or leave it. And so we sorted and we just really dove into the yes box first. And we've done this now, Ashley, with our market center on different things. We've done a couple of different team mastermind lists. And it's really helped us to like get real quick right down to the nitty gritty of what's going to have a super high impact or high value in whatever the topic is, and be the fastest and easiest that we can implement right away. Because that's what we're looking for, right? And we didn't have a whole lot of time. So that, time was of the essence.
So with 83 people on the team, and I love that, I know how you and Lance think, and of course you're not going to reduce the goal. Did you face any limited thinking of people on the team?
So limited can have a lot of meetings.
Okay. Thinking, all right, we're shut down. This isn't possible anymore.
I don't think we had a single person think that.
Awesome.
Honestly. Part of that starts with that darn dining room conversation we had way back in the day, where we listed out our core values. Because
and you don't recruit anybody who doesn't, you don't keep anybody. Let's say you don't keep anybody who doesn't fit those core values.
Correct. And one of those that's kind of an unstated value, it's kind of embedded in all of our core values, is just that, like I was describing, Lance and I have that do whatever it takes mindset. The question for us was never, can we? The question always was, how are we going to? Right? So even like with your goal question, it was not ever, oh, well, do you think we can still hit 2,700, whatever your number is, even if that's 20 for the year, do you think I can still do? I'm not sure I can. It was, okay, how are we going to still hit blah, 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 whatever the goals have been. And everybody very much in our organization is of that mindset. They don't make it a week honestly, because that's exhausting, right? If you have that scarcity mindset about things and you're around people all the time that are like, let's do it, let's do it, let's find a way, like that's exhausting. So that's just kind of fundamental to all the folks on our team.
Okay. So what has been the challenges that you have faced?
I think the only limits we've really seen in people are just honestly, I think the fear of the health piece of it. There, we are not a very fearful bunch, right? Obviously, from what I just explained and how we think, and yet the reality of the health piece of it was something we couldn't control. We do also hire a lot of control freaks, so that was a little daunting at first to kind of wrap our brains around not being able to control everything. And just the fear of the unknown, right? Like we didn't, and I think everybody felt that way, especially in the first few weeks. Nobody really knew yet, even though it had made its whole way through Europe, even what to do to even control it, to be safe from it, what safeguards we had to have in place that we knew we were protecting everybody. And I think that honestly is where just the fear of the unknown, that we didn't 100% know how to keep everybody safe. And so the one thing we did know was if we just stayed away from everybody, we were safe. And there were a few people who, for a variety of reasons, kids at home with some compromised immune systems, or older parents that they live with, whatever, we saw some of that set in, I think, early on, but very little. I think that really that's the only limit. And at that point it was like, okay, so what do we need to do for everybody, right? Like, so we've made branded masks and we have our TLG Gives logo on all of them, and we're still ironing like little silhouette cutout vinyl logos on all of our masks. And we bought cases of toilet paper, and our TLG Gives charity that we have just jumped into action right away, and we've served over, I don't even know the running total now, way over 100 families with cards for groceries and care packages of, just basic necessities and all sorts of things. So
how big is your database? I mean, I know you're massive influencers, but how many people are you in communication with? Because you likely have had people who have gotten it, not recovered, still struggling.
Yeah, we have family. I mean, I have an uncle that passed away from it already. So we have, in our data bank, we have about 62,000 people right now. We've really been scrubbing it, so that's kind of a flexible number. We have almost 8,000 that fall into the MET category. So in old fashioned, like
MRA,
very wise real estate terms from years of experience. We used to just talk like met and haven't met, right? And our met category of our sphere and our forever clients, and which for us, I always feel like I have to define that forever client for us, and it really, really played a big part through this, is a past client, what most people would call a past client. If somebody is in a transaction with us, just signed and is in an agreement with us, even just to list their house, they become a forever client, because that's somebody that we want to work with forever, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3. And, let's be real with each other. And so our forever clients, our METs, our sphere, just our METs, right? And there's about almost 8,000 of those. And that's actually what we did first. We jumped in, it took about 2 weeks. We have 4,000 or so that are forever clients, local forever clients. And we called them first and just checked in on everybody. And then the following 2 weeks, we called through the rest of our MET database and, left messages and texted and sent emails, right? If we didn't get them on the phone, called back a second time, a lot of them, just first and foremost to check on people.
That calling strategy, did that change from what things were prior? Did your scripting change? Did the people who were calling change?
Well, yeah, I mean, our scripting changed. We, normally our scripts would be very much a client service, client experience focus, and calling to find out, how we can meet their real estate needs. That's what we do. That's the business we're in, right? If we're making a business call, that's what we're calling about. Yeah. And this call, and also Harvey was this, no different, was, are you okay? What do you need? who do you know that needs something? We have a TLG Gives 501c3 that we're serving people out of. Is there anybody that we can be helping right now? That's our first priority. Obviously, we're in the real estate business, you know, and if you ever need us, let us know. What do you need? Right? And I mean, that really, and that's obviously a very gross generalization of our script, but I mean, that was really the cadence of it. Was we care about you, we care about your family. And in fact, if I can find it while I'm talking, the response to that was astounding, honestly. And people just were so appreciative. And I would venture to bet I know a bunch of the names of the people I can see on screen right now on my screen. And I know that the people in here were very much doing the same thing. And I'm sure had a lot of the same experiences. And this was so different. Like in Harvey, it was really just localized. So we had people from all over that poured out to help Houston, right? And our surrounding areas. This was every area. Everybody needed help. So, that made this a really unique situation. We all just really had to step up and help each other.
No, awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, our scripts are and like everybody's mindset just changed. And what was cool is, I think that's going to be one of the permanent changes that we see for our organization moving forward, Ashley, because our good or bad, like, I guess this is, everybody's goal is to get sticky enough with your marketing and branding that you get the come list me calls, that you get, your phone to ring, right? Well, we've done a great job. Our marketing department's like amazing. We've done a great job of that. So much so that the last 2.5, 3 years, which is the tenure for most of our ISAs, with the exception of like 5 of them, it has become a very inbound heavy business. And so inbound heavy that I think we lost a little bit of the focus and seeing and remembering the value of the outbound prospecting part of it. Mm-hmm. And they took some of that for granted. And so that's really been, I think, the biggest shift for our team, not just the mindset shift of, and in our scripts, we're just calling to care about you, but also how rewarding it was to call people in our Met Data Bank, tell them how much we care about them, foster those relationships again, and honestly see the results. We've had an astounding amount of referrals that have come in from making calls that aren't about real estate, sure. Right? And people always, they want to know how much you care. Always. Before they care about how much you know, they want to know how much you care. Yep. So yeah, it's been really interesting.
So obviously you do have ISAs and they're very, very effective. Is everybody calling?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, everybody, not just ISAs.
Well, and let me add, this is why I'm asking, because you've got 62,000 people. Yeah. It would take an ISA team a while to get through that. So, but it's all hands on deck, right?
It really was. So it took us about 4 weeks to get through the 8,000 of our Mets. On a really our goal was to get people voice to voice. We certainly didn't get everybody voice to voice, but to really truly make that contact, and at least get our message out that we were here for people. And the rest of our data bank is really more the haven't met group. Now we still have agents that all year long are working on calling those folks, and that's really our ISA team's job. But through the last 6 weeks, 5 weeks of this, we had not just ISAs calling, we've had our admin folks calling, we've had our client care people calling, all of our agents are doubling down and making calls. Lance and I are making calls, right? So, I mean, everybody has been making calls, and it's been neat. In fact, I found this message, if I may share it with you guys, the results of it, because I think, you don't always get the feedback, right? You don't always know how much of an impact what your activities are doing that are really impacting other people. And so when you get to hear that feedback, I think it's important to share with each other, because what he said to us, I promise everybody who's getting these phone calls from all of you are feeling the same way. And what he said was, I can't even begin to express how awesome this company is. It all started with a great experience with one of our buyer agents helping us find our first home. She made the whole process so easy for us, and I highly recommend her in the future. The biggest surprises came after closing on our home. The Loken Group has continued to stay in our lives for the years to come as customer appreciation. They have invited us to events at the Houston Zoo where we receive free passes for my family to get into the zoo. They had a huge tent set up for cookout for all their customers where you can eat. They also have seasonal events for holidays where they reserve a huge pie for you. Those pies are super good too, and always a favorite with holiday dinners. The biggest thing of all is what they do in times of crisis. After Harvey hit Houston, they consistently called to check on us to see if there was anything we needed and wanted to know if me and my family were okay. During this time, I was very lucky and we were doing great. Now we have the new crisis of COVID-19 or coronavirus. Once again, they called to check on us. But this time, I was almost in tears due to losing my job right when it first hit. He said, first, let me find where it matches up here. First, they helped by sourcing some hard to find supplies and had it ready for me. Now, once again, almost bringing me to tears, they sent me an HEB gift card to help with groceries. I won't say how much, but it wasn't for $20 or something small. It was a significant amount that helped me and my big family tremendously. I'm close to crying just writing this. This company really cares and they stand for something good. I will always use them and recommend them to anyone looking for a realtor company. They go above and beyond for their clients even after business is done. This will never be forgotten. And
that's huge.
And guys, like we've been sharing that message out, not because honestly that it's a TLG, like, oh yay, TLG. I promise everybody that you're calling and showing that you care to them first and foremost is having those same thoughts, whether or not they're sending you a Facebook message or not. Please consider that message one that your clients have shared with you too, if you've called to check on them or when you call and check on them, because it's just meaning the world to people. And the relationships, Gary has said this so many times for years, and especially right now, guys, the relationships that you are creating and strengthening right now, you will probably never, ever lose. And the ones that you aren't creating right now, you likely will never get. And you know, some of these expressions and things that we say sometimes, like ignorance is bliss. Boy, did I learn that about 4 years after my first year in real estate, right? You know, and you learn what some of these things mean, especially in hindsight. But you know, I think it's important to stop and think, like, some of these things that we say over and over, what do they really mean? And how do we really want to show up in our businesses to impact people with the values that are important to us? All of us in this group have a different set of business values and organizational values. And, you know, giving back is so important to us. Being charitable, taking care of others, and having that servant leader heart, that's key to our business. And it's, you know, it's been important for our team too, to rally together around that. And I think that's a big reason we haven't had limiting beliefs, because we've just believed that we're in it to take care of anybody we can.
Well, and that's it. I'm going to use the big why, but the business big why is taking care of people. The outgrowth of that is selling houses, but that's not the why.
Not at all. No,
right.
That's
And
just.
if that was the why, and I'm seeing this happen with some agents, those that are in it just to be transactional aren't participating in this right now. They're on the sidelines, which is creating more opportunity and more need for us to serve more people.
Yeah. And people need us right now. Like, absolutely. We're so blessed. I don't know how many folks are on this call that are Keller Williams or maybe, you know, with other brokerages. And I don't.
So, you know, we're on Facebook Live too, and I'm not tracking that, but there's an audience there too. So
awesome. And that's fantastic, because this message is for people who aren't even in real estate, for Pete's sake. Yeah. Right now, through all of this, and just because we're being allowed to go back to work in certain areas, I don't know if you guys have had some pretty strict guidelines longer than us. Today is the first day we're starting to open things back up in Houston, well, all over Texas. And you know, it's kind of like, I don't know if anybody's ever had a family member that's passed away. The first couple of weeks, right? You have people that are calling you, checking in on you, and oftentimes, you know, fast forward 4 to 6 weeks after that, everybody's guard gets let down and they don't always call as often. You're not getting all the cards in the mail, right? And it just puts you in thinking space time, right? And it gets a little bit harder to cope with some of the challenges that you're still maybe facing, right? This whole process, it's been interesting to watch people work through it. And very early on, it kind of started looking like the stages of grief. And And so, to take our team through and our market center through change, change management is actually like its own whole thing, right? And I was doing something I think is really interesting anyhow, and I geek out on it. But I found doing some research, this really cool graphic that actually showed people going through the basic stages of grief that we're familiar with. But when you get through to the point where you're sad or, having anxiety or feeling the emotions that are very natural to feel, that it actually showed like 3 different ways you could veer off. You could either not ever get to a point of acceptance, right? Which the positive stream that just takes off is to get through acceptance, get into some like new trial and error, like testing some new things, testing what will work, what won't, and then newness, right? And creativity and flourishing actually at the end of it, right? But there's 2 other directions that it really showed you could take, and that is you don't ever really get even to acceptance and you get to resentment, right? Or you just stay sad, and that kind of pervades the fear and the sadness. And it's been really interesting to watch people work through all these stages. And I think right now, as we're all going back to work, it's so important for us to double down even more than we have already and reach out to our contacts again, because people are still facing a lot. And if we just stop checking in on people and seeing if they're okay, not everybody's going to be okay yet. Right. And, a lot of people have lost their jobs, and over time, that's going to have a bigger impact. The oil and gas prices, that's a big deal for us here in Houston, and we're watching that very closely. I think it is for a lot of people across the country, honestly. And I fully believe that those calls, whether you've made them the first round or you're just getting ready to make them again, right now is just such a critical time for us to not keep calling people, not keep checking in on people. And I think everyone's going to appreciate it.
We can't ever stop it, because going from this point forward, everything is going to change. And a lot of that change will be good, but it's still change. And what you described is good or bad change. We as humans don't appreciate change that much. So it almost always creates anxiety. So for us to stay in touch and make those calls forever, that I was saying the other day, it's one of the blessings. If you actually took on that habit forming during this time, it should be with you forever past this time.
Absolutely. And call your colleagues too. Don't just call clients, right? Call colleagues, call peers, call local business owners that have also been struggling to, what a great time to develop new relationships too, right? And, for those of you who don't love lead gen and aren't as weird as I am, it's a really easy call to make and just say, hey, I have a business here in town too, and I'm calling some of the other business owners to see how we can help each other, right? Like, that's easy. That's not even lead gen. Doesn't feel like it. It is, by the way. Shh, it's a secret.
And it's appreciated. I've made a few of those calls, and as an owner of any business, actually, the bigger the business, the bigger the shoulders have to be, the bigger the anxiety is. A friend of mine and I were talking this morning, and as leaders, it's actually rare that somebody reaches out and says, "Are you okay?" Because they just expect you are. Trust me, most of them aren't. So make that call.
Yep. Absolutely. And people aren't calling them, right? If they're doing their job, they're calling others, hopefully. Yep. But oftentimes
they're not all that on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So shift the gear for a second. So it sounds like, everything is good in the land of Loken, and you're all in the same house. How's that been?
Oh, contraire, mon frere. So I have renamed we have a mega agent office for the Loken Group. And then we have our Keller Williams brokerage. We were blessed a couple of years ago. Actually, like, we were at Mega Live and got the phone call that we were being considered to purchase our first market center ever. And I'm the proud OP of that group and agents. And they're kicking butt and taking names too. But so we have those people to support, right, and take care of. And then we have the Loken Group to support. But we have a mega agent office for the Loken Group. And I've renamed our lease payment marriage insurance. Because Lance is like, he's a little OCD like that. And I don't think he'd be upset with me calling it that either, but he's like a machine to his routine and kind of gets rattled and shaken if his routine gets rattled and shaken. And so he has just been super steadfast, bless his heart, like kudos, right? Because some of us could have done a better job at that, and gets up still every morning, 4:30, and goes to the office. And I will pay every penny of that marriage insurance. It has been a blessing for all of us.
So he never had to stop that.
Oh, no. Nope, for sure. And my backup plan was the horse trailer we have outside because it has some living quarters in it. But somewhere, somehow, we were going to need to be in separate spaces through this.
Okay, got
and
it.
I see people laughing till the point that they're crying because they know Lance and I really well. Yeah. For those of you that know discs, Lance is 100% D and I'm 99. So you can imagine putting us in a small enclosed space for more than about 10 minutes gets really, really fascinating.
I think some of the laughter is also that some of us have been trapped at home with not an option of that. Grateful that you didn't have to figure it out. We had to kind of repartition our home.
Absolutely. And, I'm here. So we have 2 teenage daughters, and they've, of course, been here through all of it. And, it's a juggle. Like, now that everybody is suddenly having to be a homeschool parent, right? God bless. And that just makes its own whole set of challenges. And I consider we're on the easier end of that, I think, than, people that are home with toddlers, right? Because you can't rationalize with a toddler to stop talking while you're on a call with somebody that's really important, or crying, or, like it's interesting. But what's been so cool is how I think everybody has shown up so open-minded. It's given everyone such an opportunity to try new things, to make their list of 20 and try something creative. The consumers are open to it too, if they think that you're doing it for their good. And right now they actually think that you are, right? Where 6 weeks ago, they might have thought you were trying to like get out of doing half your job or something.
Yeah. Lori, come on in. It's fine. Lori wants to chime in a little bit.
I know I'm one of these ones that's laughing hysterically, Karina.
But I see you.
It's because you're so genuine and so transparent. I mean, I'm in Dallas, but when that hurricane, the Harvey storm hit everything, you guys are the ones who spearheaded the entire project to recover in the whole area. And I know you did. And I just wanted to get on and say, everything that you do is so transparent and so real and so general and so funny too. But it's because of the heart of who you are as a servant. Your entire team, I had the luxury, I actually went down to help, and I just jumped in my car and drove, and I didn't know where I was going to be staying that night. And I got there, and Karina's like, "Where are you staying?" I'm like, "I have no idea. I'm just going to jump in an Airbnb." And it's like, "No, you're not. You're coming over here." And I got the chance to really see and meet some of the team members, and every one of them, from top on down, there is no top on down. They're all equal, but they attract the most kind-hearted, loving-hearted, fun-hearted people. And I just want to thank you, because putting everything in priority right now, I mean, I'm the first to admit it's hard to do, and I haven't cared and loved as much as I should have, but you guys have inspired the multitude. And I just can't say enough about how that's trickled down in your entire region. So congratulations. And thank you.
How about our entire company?
Thank you. That's our word this year, is impact. You can't really see my shirt. That's our word for the year, is impact. And it's very much a part of our fiber. Thanks, Laurie, for your kind words. But that's just what's important to us. That's our mission statement, is to inspire a positive, lasting impact.
That's awesome. So on that, what can we do for you?
Call your people. Right now, write down 2 ahas from this call. And guys, I'm going to be specific about that. No more than 3.
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to, and if you've written like more than that, just circle 2. And here's why. When you are looking at ahas, this is something I learned this past year. When you're writing down ahas and you have more than 3, how many do you think you actually implement?
0.
Yep. So 1 to 3, that's your max. For those of you that like to break the rules, I'm telling you 2 so that you can circle 3, because I bet there's rule breakers in here like me, And that's okay. We're fun. We'll have a party later when we can be back together again. But for sure, you guys, like what you can do for me is take anything out of this call and turn it into an actionable, even one thing that you're going to commit to doing. And I mean, commit and go do it. Like before the day ends, start it.
Yeah. And then what are your 4 core values? It's another question Lori has up there.
Oh, well, we actually rewrote them this year. So now I guess there's 7 words that we've kind of itemized it. Humility is big for us. Integrity. See if I can get all the words without just telling you like what it all means to me. Charity, being charitable and giving back. Let's see, I think we looped honesty in with integrity now. We have teamwork is huge for us. And teamwork for us is not just lots of people doing their jobs, right? And that makes a team. That's not it. For us, teamwork truly is like a mindset of when I do my absolute very best at something, I know me doing my absolute best means everybody else gets to be that much more successful. That's different, right? That's a different meaning to us of teamwork. And that's really important, I think, to know. Sense of urgency is not one of the words, but it's woven through all of our core. Huh?
It's woven through all of your being.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. And just being super driven, and being a self-starter, being driven as a self-starter. I can share with you our core value words. Like our marketing department did a great job, like taking all of the things that we truly believe in and making it digestible. Or, thanks, Lee, you can actually go on our share drive. We have a site that is, well, so she put our website up there. We also have another site that is tlgshares.com. tlgshares.com. And there we put a lot on there of resources, kind of a lot of all of our processes and models that we've used over the years. Our training checklist is on there. Our steps for hiring, some of the extra things that we added to the CV process, like we get everybody's love languages for the team so we know how to appreciate them. We do Strengths Finder. So some things, not to hire them or not hire them, but more so that we can jump better into a coaching relationship and show them right away how we appreciate them in a way that means something to them. So yep, there's a bunch of great stuff on there. It's all there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I will follow up with everybody to make sure they get their 2 actionables out. This was awesome.
Yay. Can you share that with me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So will everybody commit to that on here? Share with me what your 2 actionables are, your name, your phone number, your email, and your 2 actionables. There, that's what you can do for me.
There you go. We got it. We will get it to you.
Oh, I missed coming to Naperville too. I actually even volunteered to drive to Chicago. I still will. It's one of my favorite places. You guys, thank you for being on the call. Your chats have been kind of fun. I'm ADHD, like as bad as they come. So like a couple times I lost my thought there, but the comments have been outstanding. And I really appreciate you guys letting me be with you today.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, congrats for the new driver. Yay.
Thank you. Thank you.
And hopefully we'll see you in person soon, sometime soon.
Hopefully I'm going to start like driving across the country before too long. So, all right, bye, guys. Have an awesome weekend.
You too. Love ya.
Love ya.